Let me call to order this regular meeting of the Public Transportation Advisory Committee for May 13th, 2026. And let us all stand and pledge allegiance to this here land. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Oh, my mic cut out. I don't know what that happened. By the way, these mics are, I noticed watching other meetings that the mics don't pick up voices as well as, yeah, you have to kind of, if you want to be heard by the people out there, then it's better to direct your voice into the mic a little bit. If, yeah, maybe the control room can adjust the pickup.
Aiming in directly.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I think
that.
Yep, I think that should work. The first item on the agenda is a review of minutes, but let me begin by welcoming our two new members. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit, or yeah, I think so. Chase and Kim are joining us. They were just appointed to the committee, and it's kind of the committee's been going for a little while, so it's kind of an unfair time to come in the middle of a going concern. But I think you guys have been paying attention and are probably pretty quick to pick up things. So we're certainly glad to have you on board and welcome you and welcome your participation and your voice in the work that we do here. Chase, do you want to briefly introduce yourself? That'd be great.
I'm Chase Eagleson. I live over on Bennett Way. Lived in the town for 3 years now. Mm-hmm. For work, I work for the state. I do disability advocacy for the state. I do a lot of work with the SEC, the State Coordinating Council, and ABLE New Hampshire's Transportation Equity Task Force. So I have some knowledge of state transportation works, but yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, as far as, I'm sorry? No. You're all known entities. I think you want to? Okay. Go ahead. Introduce yourself too.
Thanks, Bart.
You're right. Thank you, Bart, for pointing that out.
I'm the town engineer, also interested in transportation related topics, utilities and stuff.
Mike Hoffman, I own a couple businesses in town, and very interested in transportation safety.
And I'm Jim Pavoni. I have been in Newmarket for a little while, and I'm also interested in public transportation and in the accessibility of our town to people who are not who choose not to. And the safety of bicycling and walking, making the town a little bit more friendly in that way. So back to the minutes, draft meeting minutes from last time. You guys are welcome to approve these minutes even though you weren't here. It's a perfectly fine thing to do, or to abstain if you choose to do that. If you choose to abstain, then we'll have kind of a strange situation because, yeah, and since Madeline is the only other person who is not able to be here because she's sick, who would be able to get us to a majority here. Yes. Yeah.
It's confrontation. So I just want to remind us.
I think the minutes themselves, the written minutes are. I would read them first before watching the meeting because I think you'll get just about everything out of the minutes. the way I look
The
at it.
extension is really the conflict of interest. You can vote on meeting minutes
We can,
that
absolutely.
you weren't in attendance for.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's no conflict.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly right. You don't have, but you can abstain.
Yeah.
If you just you show that you weren't there. But I agree. I'll go with your suggestion, Bart, and we'll postpone acceptance of these minutes for till next time. I did begin to kind of recap the last meeting to Chase before you came into the room, Tim. So, nothing that was not in the minutes anyway. So, if you want to read through that for next time, it would be helpful since that's kind of the business that we will be focusing on, I guess, for the next couple of meetings, for sure. Okay. So you feel comfortable? Yeah. Okay. Then I'll accept the vote to. I mean, the motion to accept these minutes. Then
I'll make that motion.
thank you. Do you have a second?
I'll second, sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you very much. And the next step for us, or a big step that we need to plan out in regards to the parking conversation, is the drafting of our report to the town council. Bart was so good to draft a layout, if you will, of a report, and we should take a look at that, and then I don't know if we're at a place where we can talk about any recommendations, but I think it would be helpful, or may be helpful for those of us who were at the last meeting to share some of the takeaways that we have from the presentations, and what, if any, recommendations or thoughts around recommendations that we have arrived at on our own, and maybe that'll help catch our new members up as well. Does that seem like a good idea to maybe have a little bit of a recap? Okay, great. Mike, do you want to start us off with some of the thoughts that you have developed as a result of the meeting, and your thoughts around them?
I think it's important to recognize the police department and the amount of effort, level of effort that was put in. Sergeant Bryant put a tremendous amount of effort into this. And it's a hard question about the two aspects of enforcement and pay structures. And even pay structures being broken down into two different components, the short-term and long-term parking. We have systems in place for the long-term parking permit, overnight parking, which seem to work, although it's a little cumbersome for town staff. People have to go to the police department to get a permit to park overnight in all buildings. And we have maybe along the lines of something around 20 to 30 spots that we rent out. That works. And in the enforcement aspect of chalk and tires seems like 1950s technology, but it works. And then the question on it is there's so many great software opportunities out there, but they're very costly. I'm not so sure the return on investment is there. My view is the lion's share of revenue, or a big chunk of the revenue at least, goes out of town to these vendors, and it doesn't stay in town. And I'm concerned with that, and I'm also I'm concerned with the ease of parking downtown, and I know some of the struggles that other communities very close by or similar size, or even a little larger, are struggling with their local economics, which I kind of refer to as loconomics. But some towns are really struggling with small town economics of trying to keep a business open. It's very, very tough. And so this is something that Newmarket has. It's kind of different than some of the bigger communities, Dover, Portsmouth. It's just it's free parking.
So you're suggesting that having paid parking on street parking might be detrimental to frequency with which people would come to.
It might be for some people, yes, but some people would find parking easier. So
Yeah.
I don't know where it would fall. I'm somewhat afraid, and I was cornered by somebody who said, once we get it, it's not going away. You think that they're going to do a trial basis for a year and it's going to disappear in a year. That's not. I was kind of reminded that that's not. They were concerned that once we try it, we're going to stick with it, because any revenue is going to be to the town coffers is going to be seen as a huge positive. It's such a hard one, and I hate to be the one, or even have the council to be the one to make the final decision. It's almost as if a referendum would be a wonderful thing here. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough nut to crack. As most of us who are pretty familiar with downtown feel, they can always find a parking spot. I can always find a parking spot. But I know the secret little spots. I know some of the private lots that I can go to, and I'm not afraid of walking 2 blocks. Some people, walking 2 blocks is an issue. But I'm not so sure we're big enough to go to paid parking, is kind of my takeaway. I'm not convinced one way or another, but I'm not too sure that we're big enough to go.
So you're thinking about. Okay. That's fair. If there was a lot. How about you guys? Do you have any takeaways that you feel are ready to share?
Day stretch where parking's an issue, typically. And it's usually in the evening hours. So again, is this premature? Would other efforts to direct people to parking be more fruitful? And then if we still are experiencing the issues, then we'll revisit this metered parking. Is there other opportunities to encourage movement of spaces? I don't know. But I see both sides of the coin, and there might be cheaper alternatives to try out first before we move forward, because we're going to have to invest in infrastructure. Most likely human resources. And so, do we want to do that first, or do we want to try something else that may be a better alternative? For example, signage to show where the parking is available that's not known, as Mike spoke to, restriping to add a couple more spaces potentially in certain key areas of downtown. And I think we go, I'm not going to make a recommendation, but just a thought that, we might have cheaper alternatives right now. Again, I think we'll just focus on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Mostly. And the rest of the time, it's usually you can find a spot easily. I mean, again, what's the post office gonna be? You know, like, you can use that at night as well. And, you know, so again, and who knows what their operations will be in the future. I know, it might become more of an issue parking if the bank lot opens up, or it actually gets an occupant and it uses that space. Where do those vehicles go? That's probably what, 20 cars maybe? So, so they'll be displaced and put more pressure into the our infrastructure. But again, we could accommodate those with existing facilities that the town has. Again, it's a behavior change, I think, for vehicles. You know, how far you want to walk. Some of it's, you know, you can't. So I'm not discounting folks that need to park in close to the destination.
Yeah.
But I think we have spaces for, you know, all folks. So I don't know. I kind of agree. You know, I probably made that suggestion or endorsed it. Let's try it for a year, and you're probably right. You know, it's once we pass the Rubicon, there's no looking back. So I think we just want to be mindful of everyone as much as possible in town and our visitors, and just see if we can do something else. You know, prior to making that decision to go to meter parking. I do have an update on that as we get through the agenda, but yeah, those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you. Kim, do you have any thoughts as you read the minutes or watched the meeting on the issue, or I mean, if you don't, that's perfect.
Or even just experience, just as being a resident, your public experience is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
I think I share the opinion that I'm not entirely sure if free parking is more beneficial than getting less cars downtown in general through other means. On Bennett Way, I feel like there's an opportunity to make the walk on Bennett Way downtown easier, and that would take a lot of cars off. That would take a lot of pressure off of all the parking spots downtown if more people felt more comfortable walking there. I know that's a much longer term solution, so I understand. And I'm not sure, is this because there's a deficit that needs to be, a budget deficit or anything?
No, this is not really a budgetary issue so much as it is I think an enforcement issue that, at least initially, there are two issues. There's and I don't know if that was a driver for the proposed ordinance language, but there's a perception that there is a lack of parking downtown. I don't know who has that perception really, so it's not really based on a study or anything like that. It's more of a general understanding. There's an issue downtown with parking, and as Art alluded to, 2-3 days, nights during the week when that's actually true. And the other issue is enforcement of the current rules around the limit of 2 hours in the downtown area for parking and how that's conducted. It's not we don't have enforcement 24 hours a day, or when you can actually park on the street because you can't park overnight anyways. So we don't. It's not always enforced, and there's a feeling that some people are using the fact that some car owners are using the fact that enforcement is not always the same throughout the week and are parking for longer periods, even though they are aware of the 2-hour limit. So those are kind of the issues. Is that a fair characterization? Yeah.
I think the last one in most of this is the permitting. Like,
Right.
I don't want to say archaic, but
Yep.
has a unique permitting system here in town that we have. So, is there an opportunity to be, to serve the public better, to issuing those permits, accessing them in a timely manner, and not having to go, too physically to the police station. So I think that's a consideration. And just like the, types of permits, can we expand upon those, to meet people's needs. So,
I also want to add to, you mentioned we didn't have a study to support the perception of not enough parking. We did have a parking study, and it found that outside of those 3 evenings, we really don't have too much of an issue, but we are underutilizing parking lots that are just outside of downtown.
Right.
So
That's
we
true.
were kind of using that data to guide some discussion about how we could increase the use of those satellite parking lots and encourage people to be parking there and not viewing no parking space on street available as a problem because there's still open spaces for them to walk a little
Right.
further.
Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate that. That's exactly right. I forgot about that. That's so in my mind, those are exactly the issues that we have. That we have underutilized public parking lots. We have a lack of awareness due to inconsistent signage. And we have an archaic permitting system. For people, let's say, who are working downtown, who would want to have a permanent spot that they could park, or reliable and available spot to park when they're working. Creating better awareness and an easier access to permits might be a way to get people to utilize lots that are very underutilized. Whether that's the Water Street lot is actually pretty utilized, but even this lot right here, there's always parking available. There's the lot on Bay Road that has open spaces. There is the railroad lot that has open spaces, and those are all within walking distance. And then there's the Beach Street Extension lot that has lots of availability, and those are all within walking distance, especially if you're going to be in downtown for a longer period of time. If you're working and you have an 8-hour shift or whatever, a 5-minute walk may not be that big a deal. But if you're picking up a slice of pizza or a takeout order, you don't want to park in the lot and then walk in. Then maybe on-street parking is really what you're looking for. So taking some pressure off the on-street parking by doing that may be a way to address the issue that we're facing during those three nights when there really is high demand for parking downtown. I have a similar takeaways as far as the initial cost, and then the standing cost that exists, especially for kind of the enforcement side through park loyalty, that would require a pretty hefty fee, and initial infrastructure work. Buying a kiosk, buying handhelds, and so on and so forth. So that's maybe something to mull over. So my suggestion would be that we do a little bit of an accounting of the costs, just the initial outlay that we would have, and see if that's the way we want to spend the money, especially if it's an annual cost that we would incur, and compare that to, let's say it's $30,000. Let's just say. What else could we do with those $30,000 that would that could be targeted toward better utilization of existing lots. That could go into creating a more efficient online permit purchasing option. Do we need to have a third-party provider for something like that, or can we just create something ourselves? I mean, it doesn't have to be the super complicated, super high-tech. We don't have to go from the way we're doing it now to a super high-tech option. There's something in the middle, and something that may be a little bit more homegrown and may serve our purposes better. And is there, for example, an opportunity to, this is just an opportunity to collaborate with the schools around permits? I mean, they issue permits to their students every year. Maybe we could use something similar, and achieve some kind of lower cost because of that. Jason.
I know one of the things that was mentioned was workers in town not being able to find more permanent spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been discussion giving businesses permits for their workers? Like whatever day workers there can drive around their car and kind of get around that fact?
I think that was kind of mentioned, but we don't really have a good system around that.
There's
right now.
competing interests there as well, because an employee may have to work an 8-hour shift, and what we're trying to avoid is somebody parking in a prime spot for 8 hours. They park right in front of whatever, the big bean for 8 hours because they work there. That's really tough. It's that 2-hour limit is kind of designed for customers. Ideally, in my mind, the employees, and I've worked restaurants lots of years of my life, we always had to take the worst parking spots. The employees, and you'll see different, in shopping malls, you'll see a different color of parking spots, and you'll notice all the employees are parked as far away as possible. And that's kind of the concept I think we need for our downtown, is that the Main Street is customers. And maybe, in my mind, Spring Street has opportunity for parking on both sides. We now have no parking signs on both sides. But, maybe those signs just come down, we allow parking, and all of a sudden there's a quarter mile of parking.
Yeah.
And that becomes known that it's like, hey, they don't, there's not a 1 o'clock limit here, so it's okay if I get out of work at 1:30 and I'll put a ticket if I park on Spring Street. That'll be known in this town like that. There's that downtown Newmarket. Everybody kind of has knowledge of what's going on. I jokingly refer to one of the parking schemes as the Newmarket Shuffle. Those who don't rent spots, they just find out what apartment's empty and they park in that unit until that one gets full, and then they find another one. But I think that's what I like, the 2-hour limit in the downtown for businesses, and I think and the employee passes will just go.
That's fair.
No, I mean, I think the thought of passes is kind of exactly what we're looking for. It's just not passes to park downtown. It's not on street parking. Those would be passes for parking in lots, because that's why we have parking lots. We just have to find a way to utilize them better, and so that may be a good avenue for that. And so we have. I think what I'm hearing is that there's kind of a somewhat of a consensus that we should find ways, implement ways to increase better utilization of existing infrastructure before we go down the path of metered parking on street metered parking. That we should simplify through an online purchasing process the ability to obtain a permit, and that we could have different kinds of permits. We could have overnight permits. We can have monthly permit, we can have a permit that can be, you know, a business type permit that can be passed on to employees depending on who has a shift or whatever. So there are opportunities for us that we're not currently utilizing. And that there's a kind of a consensus that we ought to try that first because we have plenty of parking. And if we don't, if we find that we're still short, then maybe there are opportunities to institute on-street parking on adjacent streets to downtown if we want to go down that road. I'd rather avoid that myself because then we run into issues around you know, on-street parking during the winter when, you know, and so if we don't have to go down that road, but that's another kind of another opportunity that we could pursue before we were to go to paid parking. And I really like your thought, Mike, around you know, free parking is an inviting feature of Newmarket's downtown that we shouldn't easily give up because it does benefit the businesses in town. It's clearly not a detriment to have free parking. So I think we need to be very careful with that. What we're not addressing so much in this conversation as of yet is the enforcement of time limits and how to go about that. And I'm not sure that that may be something that we don't have to worry about either all that much. If we are indeed successful with alternative ways to take some of the pressure off of street parking and move people to lots.
How much of an issue is the enforcement? That the Chief Jordan say was a big issue? I know that in the last meeting it said that like 73% tickets were issued with the non-Newmarket residents. Is this something that because people didn't know the 2-hour limit, or is it?
You mean why? I
Yeah,
don't think we know why people are.
Both why and like how big of an issue is the actual physically enforcing it?
Well, I'm not sure it's a. I think it's a kind of a fairness issue.
Yeah.
You know, you're being able to enforce the 2-hour limit with a part-time person is difficult. Yeah.
But she works, she kind of picks her hours, and she's got a certain number of hours she works. And she's great. Both our parking enforcement people have been great. They mix up their times. They don't do it like on any set schedule. And, you know, even they'll go out in a light drizzle because they know people will think, oh, parking's probably not working in the rain. And it's like, no, I'm going to mix it up completely. I talked to her the other day downtown. And, you know, I think it would be interesting just to have her come into one of these meetings. Of course, you know, she's got to go through her boss and everything, but she is thinking parking the whole time as she's downtown. It's only, the program having parking enforcement is only about 3 years old or so. If my time is right, I'm not sure. I'm
certainly not very long. Very old.
Not that long. And that made a huge improvement. I think some of our perception is left over from before we had parking enforcement, thinking that there's a problem. But once we threw in that person that's only part-time, and there are quite a few tickets being written, yeah, it's an old-fashioned system, but we're also a 3-block town. You know?
Yes, exactly.
I think it works wonderfully well. I would agree 100% that we took the money that we're going to put into a system. I know Public Works does not want kiosks downtown. They really do a good job of snow removal, and that's a problem to have another fixed barrier in their way on every block, which is kind of what they almost have to be to, you know, not be inconvenient to the users. I think that we take, a certain amount of money every year and really aggressively look for additional spots. Where can we possibly find another spot?
Yep.
I think that money would be well spent, as we did with the Bay Road lot, whatever, maybe 10 years ago, we paved it, and then we striped it and put up signs, but before that, it was just a vacant lot that was kind of used as like a bandit. And the same with the Dane Road lot, which is one we don't even sell permits to. That didn't even exist as far as the towns, wasn't a town lot 10 years ago. That's 5 years, it's been a town lot for about 5 years. So we have additional lots. We did, like we say, direct people to them and utilize them better.
I agree. Art, you had something or you looked like you wanted to add something.
I don't remember.
Okay. We had decided that rather than having all discussion here, that we would have a subcommittee, a small working group. We called it a working group. We didn't call it a subcommittee. We called it a working group, so that we can kind of be a little bit more efficient about the writing and the reporting. I would suggest that we leave this here and have the working group meet and then maybe begin to develop a first draft of the report to bring back to the committee so that we can kind of go through the iterative process that way and build the report. Does that sound like a good approach to you, Bart?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It strikes me, we don't usually have opportunity for public comments because we usually don't have anybody from the public here.
We do.
But we do have somebody from the public, and I think that we should entertain allowing the public to speak.
Oh, of course. I always this not being a
Because you're so not used to this.
That's
your last time.
It's a public comment. Yes. Would you?
Yes,
like
I'd like to.
I would love to hear from you.
Hi,
Sorry.
I'm Robin Wesley, 55 Donna Drive. I was at the last meeting that we
Yes.
had, and I want to thank you all for your service and your efforts put into this, and I'm very encouraged to hear the comments coming out tonight. I was so worried that we were going to go with kiosk and everything else and spend the money, which I absolutely think there's no return on investment on. And I don't like the idea of, it being focused on enforcement in our town. I love the idea of free parking. It's a small town or smallish town, and allowing the businesses to have that for their customers. I agree with you completely on maybe offering permits to businesses to give off-street parking to their employees if they don't have something behind their buildings. I think one of the things that I heard last time was the concern about enforcement and the challenges with giving permits, through the police department. Could we consider, is there something they could print out and stick in the window from the website of the town? Here, I need a month's permit, pay online and, stick it in your window with dates on it, something like that might help. I guess also, I am with the food pantry, and my concern is always the 2-hour limit and having volunteers come in and, I've got to go, I've got to move because it's 2 hours. It's during the time when it's not busy. It's Wednesday morning and it's Thursday. And we talked about the bottleneck in our parking on Thursday, Friday, Saturday timeframes, really. Is it something where we just change the timing structure of these parking, meter people and say, it's nice to be able to float, but we don't need you floating necessarily Wednesday morning. We need somebody here Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night for enforcement when it's our biggest challenge. It's a thought. So I appreciate your time, and again, thank you for all the work you've done.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
Oh,
And I was also ask you a question. I don't know how this
Yes, you
works.
can.
Robin, right? Does the food pantry run on Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
no, Thursday it's open to the public, so that's when Water Street is very busy. You've got, patrons and employees coming back and forth. Wednesday we have food intake, so you have several employees volunteers, not employees, volunteers coming in from 9 a.m. to maybe 2 p.m. to, help sort and put away the donations that are coming in.
And how many hours do they usually?
2-hour shifts.
2-hour shifts. Would it, and you guys can tell me if this is a bad idea, change the 2-hour limit on non-Thursday, Friday, Saturday days? Would that help to like a 3-hour limit?
Possibly. I mean, if the options are, if that's another option.
I thought I'd put it out
Yeah,
there for you.
yeah.
No guarantee that they get the spots, so.
Yeah, but I thought I'd put it out there.
Another thing might be consideration if the police department could issue a waiver
Yeah.
for certain hours, something of that nature, where it's, from whatever, 9 a.m. to 2, you can apply, volunteers can apply for a dashboard paper or something.
We have quite a few different volunteers though. I mean, coming maybe some every week, some once a month,
Yeah.
some every 6
Yeah.
months. So
I think
that's
it kind of goes along with your suggestion for a permit that a business could obtain for their employees. And let's say it's those little tags that you can hang on your or place in your car. You could just have them available, so people who are volunteering just take it, put it in their car, and then return them. For example, I think that one can figure out a solution to that.
it is, but I think we are not that bad with that scenario, but it is something that we'd like to consider.
But paid parking wouldn't make it better. Is what
No,
you're
that
saying.
would not help at all. At all. Thank you much.
Thank you. All right, then, how about that suggestion then that we, continue this conversation next time and let, the working group in the meantime do some more detail and suggestions and maybe mull over how, permit parking could be structured and how that could be, implemented. And Bart, do you want to jump into the signing wayfinding? Because I think that follows.
Yeah.
I know we're jumping around in the and I apologize.
Was there consensus on the working group?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So the town has selected a contractor, the EF Design and ACL Studios. So Liz Durfee, I'm not sure if you know her, she's the owner of EF Design and Planning. And so she was selected for wayfinding.
Just to catch up, what was the RFP for?
Sorry.
No,
Yeah, you're right. So it's for wayfinding and branding. So the idea is to create a signage brand, uniform signs, and then also different types of signs that would direct people to points of interest. So like parking, facilities, maybe other points of interest like conservation or something. So the idea is to have a suite of options for different purposes that would be designed through community engagement process, and then also identify locations where those signs would be most effective. And then the next step for after that process would be actual fabrication. So that's a future project, but this is just the identification of sign locations and what the signs will look like. So, and then the information on it as well that we would like to see. So again, that kind of dovetails well with this parking management because we have a nice ecosystem of signs down there, and some uniformity might be beneficial and informative. So that might help our situation in parking management greatly. So we're looking to sign the contract this month and get started in June, July. So stay tuned for more information.
great. Thank you.
Here's a thought that I don't want to escape me. It's probably not exactly the right time to bring it up, but the Historic Association, or no, it's Main Street Corporation. I think both of them wanted, kept asking about different signs for the historic district. And I'm sorry, but Steve had told them not until this happens, this wayfinding thing, like years ago.
Yeah.
But they even had money they were going to put towards signage for the historic district. But maybe the consultant would be able to have something to work with with their desires to have a historic district identified.
Well, that's part of the community engagement aspect of it, is getting all those stakeholders together to identify what types of signage would be needed, and again, what that would look like and stuff.
Yeah.
So that'd be part of the process. It would definitely be involved.
Yeah, sounds good.
Any other?
On that, no. And on that item,
I'm really excited about this. I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially around the branding aspect. It sounds kind of off when you think about it, maybe a little bit, but I think it's a really great opportunity to present an image of Newmarket to visitors that is common, or welcoming, friendly, and enticing. And so I'm really excited about this project, and I hope it's a great success, and that we find a way to implement it in the end that actually so that we can benefit from that work. Along the invitation and the enticement and the friendliness, do you have any update on the road typology, complete streets piece?
that's me. No, we've kind of been focusing on the parking management, so I haven't done no work to it
That's
since. So
perfectly reasonable.
I think
It's on hold
yeah,
for now.
yeah, it's exactly. So I plan. So I think that's the thing we can discuss post June.
After June,
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds perfect to me as well.
So I think
So-
like July would be a good goal setting
Yeah.
session, a meeting, and then I can put together all the projects that we have, and we can establish a timeline and prioritize work.
Including our little
Correct. Our neighborhood.
neighborhood outreach thing. Yeah. I have one little update on public transportation, on coast rather, not on public transportation per se, but on coast. I don't know if you've all heard or if you're all aware of the Newmarket Exeter connector. Has anybody ever used it? No. Okay. But it's.
I've seen it. I've seen it in use. I haven't used it
Yes.
myself.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of a great great approach to offering a mobility solution to people who need it. You call ahead and so identify a time that you want to be picked up, where you want to go. You can pick any location in Newmarket or in Exeter and some on the way to go to, and then arrange for a return trip as well. Up until now, or right now, it costs $3 for a trip, and that is proposed to be increased to $4. So first, fare increase that Coast has implemented in, I think it's almost 20 years. So it's quite a long time, and considering fuel increases, it's probably not going to make much of an impact for Coast in that way to keep up with their costs, but it'll help. And $4 for a one-way trip is it's not insignificant. So if that's something that you're concerned with, there is an opportunity later on in the month here in this room to comment on that fare increase if you're out there and you're a user, and you can get a ride here for that time too if you need to get a ride. There are public hearings scheduled throughout the coast region throughout this month to make your voice heard, and you can find them on the coast website. I did not come prepared, and I don't have that with me. Let me just see. Oh yes, it is. The public hearing is on the 21st from 3 to 4 here in the town council chambers. So the 21st of May from 3 to 4. And the proposed increase is from $3 to $4. One of the interests that I have in public transportation is to recreate a connection in the other direction toward Durham so that we can connect to the wider coast network. I'd love for us to not lose track of exploring how we might get there, and maybe that can become one of our goals. Or depends on what people are looking at, and I think your idea around connecting a safe connection from one side of the railroad tracks to the other along one way is or some way to get from Bennett Way, from that area to downtown in a safe way, walking and or bicycling is really important as well, and I hope that we can come up with some creative ideas around that as well. Is there anything else that anybody would like to raise or is wondering about?
One thing we've talked about the walking ability, and I just looked up the walk score for Newmarket, downtown Newmarket. It's 77. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's considered to be a walkable community. The bike score is 37, which is considered to be poor, obviously. And so maybe that, I don't know exactly how those scores come about, but I do know that renters sometimes will look at those things and say, is it a bikeable community? And I certainly know that the Seacoast Bike Riders, Sabre, Seacoast Alliance of Bike Riders, or whatever, they don't come here. They go to a lot of other communities, have breakfast, and we're just too. It's not safe enough on bicycles. It seems that there used to be a bunch of bikes at Big Bean, and people aren't doing that as much. And I think we need to keep on working on our bicycle, the feeling of safety when you're riding a bicycle. And of course, 108 doesn't feel safe. I try not to do it. If I go to the rail trail, I put my car in my 12-mile-per-gallon truck, and I'm going to take my bike down there, and then use the rail trail. But I'm not riding on 108. And especially talk about at the railroad tracks is a perfect example. Horrible spot when you're southbound on 108 on a bike. It just you're squeezed into traffic. The white lines on the edge of pavement. It's just
Gotta take New Road, and then he's gotta Frogger across 108.
Right, yeah, and I can go through Epping. I can go through Epping and get around too.
Yeah,
It's just how far around do I go to do something? You can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but usually most people want to take a fairly direct route and not go, into a loop around the loop. But yeah, that is the
Commuter definitely, but recreation is a different story.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
exactly.
Yeah, I think for bicycling, there's a lack of infrastructure for sure, but I think there's also a lack of experience with on-street riding that may keep people from riding or having enough kind of a level of comfort and in their own abilities to override on the street that comes from just doing it. Because I have to say, I don't share that feeling around riding on 108 at all. I mean, I wouldn't ride between here and Durham just because it's a boring ride on 108, and I don't want to be, overtaken by cars all the time. I would rather ride on, Bay Road and Durham Point Road because I ride because I want to have a good time. But if I wanted to go somewhere fast, then I would certainly ride on 108, and there's enough of a shoulder. And so I think there's a comfort level too, kind of like a new driver feels differently on the road than one that has been driving for 5 years and 10 years, 20 years, and you just develop a feeling for things. So that may be part of it as well. But I do agree. I think our infrastructure is quite poor. And speaking of infrastructure, I know that the town is planning to redo a portion of our sidewalk infrastructure, and I'm hoping that you have some information on that, Lindsay, and what the size of that project is, and what will be replaced, and is it a replacement with the same as it is now, or is it an upgrade with as far as the curbing is concerned?
All of the above. I do have information.
Yes.
The proposed sidewalk work for this year coincides with the paving work to be done on Durrell Drive, planned for Durrell Drive and Hersey Lane. So the sidewalk there is existing sidewalk on Durrell Drive currently from Grant Road to the other end of Durrell. It actually, the road changes from Durrell to Hersey, right around Tanner Circle. So the portion of Durrell that's closer to Grant Road, from Durrell to Huckins, is existing asphalt pavement with granite curb. That sidewalk is in pretty good condition, and that will remain.
Okay.
So what's to be replaced is from the intersection with Huckins Drive up the hill to Hersey Lane. That is old bituminous curb that's barely even any elevation change from the road, and the sidewalk is in poor condition. All of that will be replaced to match what's already on Durrell further down towards Grant. So asphalt sidewalk, 5 foot 5 inch width with granite curb, vertical granite curb along it. So that'll extend all the way up to replace what currently exists and all the way to the intersection with Bennett Road. So it'll go along Hersey as well. It's not going to stop where it changes from Durrell to Hersey. It's going to continue up Hersey, replace all of that to Bennett Way, and include a new marked crossing at the intersection with Ledgeview Drive.
Sure, Tanner, right?
Yeah, it's right between Tanner and Lady Slipper.
Yeah.
So there's Bennett on one side of Hersey, and then on the opposite side there's Lady Slipper, Ledgeview, Tanner Circle.
Okay.
And
I'll trust it. That's all true.
And Tanner Circle has a marked crossing currently. Ledgeview and Lady Slipper do not. So Rick and I have had several discussions with Chief Jordan about where we put the crossing, where it's going to have good sight distance, be the safest, and pick up the most amount of people. Based on observational pedestrian counts, we see the vast majority of walkers coming out of Ledgeview as opposed to Lady Slipper. And Lady Slipper is not as densely populated and close to the road, so we've been looking more at Ledgeview. So we're going to put a marked crossing at Ledgeview and curb ramps with detectable warning devices on both sides and extend sidewalk onto Ledgeview. There's not currently any sidewalk, but there's a wide shoulder, so we'll extend a little bit of sidewalk there because we don't want to have a crossing to nothing. So there'll be a little extension of sidewalk on Ledgeview. So that is what's currently planned to be part of the budgeted sidewalk plan and the request that's in front of town council for discussion next week. And if it turns out that we have enough in what we're asking for, can get the work done faster and maybe slightly cheaper than what we're budgeting, we would also consider an extension beyond Bennett Way to Mockingbird Lane, which is another, it helps when you're looking at the map.
I was just gonna say, now I'm gonna have to bring up the map because I'm getting.
Tanner Circle, is that a new?
It's a new one. It's across the street from
Tanner
Green.
Circle is the one that comes off of the Class 6 portion of the
Okay, so that's the, oh, yeah.
It's
okay.
a little spur,
Yeah. It's new,
yes.
yeah, okay.
Is that the one with all the new like duplexes? And...
That's
No,
Green.
That's green. Oh, okay.
Green, yeah, and that's the opposite side. Tanner Circle's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Other side of
And
her.
so, what does the,
Oh, that's.
what does the connection to Bennett Way look like? Okay, so you're gonna replace the
There-
sidewalk.
Yeah, the existing sidewalk goes right up to Bennett Way on the northern side of it, along Hersey. So we are just going to do that. We don't have enough budgeted to do the Bennett Way portion, but that is next on the sidewalk extension list. Close that gap from the intersection of Hersey Lane down Bennett Way.
Okay. So having the conversation about how to connect, Bennett Way and Cherry Hill, all of that, to, downtown, and how is probably a time event. Well in advance before
Yes.
we'll get there, in
Yep.
other words, yeah.
I got a question, Lindsay. Is that the last segment, Bennett Way, going down towards Exeter in the sidewalk plan? No, okay.
Getting there though.
No, I wasn't talking about going down,
No, I know.
No,
He's asking
there's a
separate.
missing link up there.
Yeah.
Salmon Street and Piscassic, I think, are the last ones on there.
Thank you.
on
After
the
Bennett Way.
existing, on the
Yeah.
existing
The
plan.
existing plan, yeah. The existing plan included, I wanna say like 8, sidewalk extension on 8 or so different roads. Many of them have been done. New Road, Bay Road, North Main Street, connection around the corner to Grant Road, and then Hersey, Bennett, and Piscassic and Salmon, I think are the last ones.
Which one on North Main Street to, Grant, that's fantastic. That was a long time in the making.
South
That's such a,
Yeah,
an improvement.
yeah, I agree. That is quite good.
That one gets used all the time.
Absolutely.
I don't think I've driven by there, since it's been done, I don't think I've driven by it, and it hasn't been somebody walking.
And there used to be a big puddle and people walked into the travel lane when there was a lot of water.
Mhm.
And so now it's so much better.
The same on Hersey, and anyway,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pedestrian utilization of the sidewalk there.
I think that the rail segment's gonna be huge.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's fantastic to hear, and I'm glad
Huge
that it's,
improvement, I should say.
that's better, a better approach with the curving than the existing, because you don't have a clear definition.
Yeah,
of
it'll,
separation between walking and driving.
Right.
things.
Feel safer.
Yeah, yeah, and it'll probably last a lot longer too.
yes, that is definitely will last longer, which is,
Easier to repave the roadway too when you have curving like that.
the roadway and the sidewalk. Yeah.
Right. That brings up a question, I'm sorry, I shouldn't do this.
Go for it.
It's like this really black, it's like blacktop, are there other colors that one could use? Is that like a lighter color, for the sidewalks? And not
Pavement?
not because of the feel or anything, but
Heat.
just,
Heat
to
and
absorb less heat, yeah. In the summertime especially, so that it doesn't get so, so soft so easily. I was just wondering if there's a different mix, because it doesn't take the same kind of abuse that the roadway does. So is there a mix that is lighter in color that is, lasts a similar period of time, but would have a better reflective quality?
I am not aware of, I know there are
Paint, probably.
other, well, there are some other options of pavement that, it's more about the aggregate,
Mhm.
the color. And I know, Amesbury, Mass has like red roads. I don't know what they did to that.
Like the
asphalt
red,
that
the
they
red
put-
sidewalk.
No, not just sidewalk, like some of their older roads. It
Mhm.
didn't hold up as well, so they didn't keep using it. They went back
Yeah.
to.
Is it like
Yeah,
sedimentary,
I don't know.
like like
It
brick?
might have been a different emulsion in the
Yeah.
asphalt that had the color, I don't
There
know.
was a material that they paved the road and then they put down stone on top and rolled the stone
Oh.
so
maybe
that
it's
you
gonna
had the stone on top. And the theory was the stone was gonna last a long time. And there was an engineer that worked for the DOT, Skip Grady, who actually was our project manager for Exeter Street,
Mhm.
who thought it was a really good idea. But I kind of go with, if it's a really good idea, everyone's doing it kind of theory. A lot of people would be doing it, but the idea is the stones last better, will wear really well. And it was
Yeah.
also, some of the idea was too, to like discourage skateboarders because it's a little bumpy. It makes a little more road noise because it's a little bumpier. But,
Mhm.
I don't know, they rolled the stone surface into the top of the asphalt.
Yeah.
And Skip could probably still tell you whether it's a good idea or not.
So to answer your question, I'm not aware of anything, so
Okay.
it'll likely be the
It was
same
just
factor.
just a thought, because it gets so hot on
Well, that is important for shade trees and street trees.
Yes.
To, we've all walked across blacktop barefoot quickly.
Yes, I've done that, especially in Washington DC. It's absolutely crazy. It can get so hot, and you're probably not that far away from that. Okay, that's good. I thank you for that update, and sounds really fantastic. What's the process what was the process that was used to develop the current plan, and is there a desire at DPW to develop a version, a new one?
For the sidewalk extension plan?
Yes, maybe not just calling it a sidewalk extension plan, but something akin to that, a new update.
Yes.
Yes.
There's definitely a desire, now that we are approaching the end of what was currently
Right.
in our plan. I think that it wouldn't necessarily be, a duplicate of what was done previously, but, maybe something more collaborative with this group that could identify opportunities for connections, whether they are on-road or off-road. What was done previously was just looking at on-road
Yeah.
areas that could close the gap, but having some pedestrian data collection, we could probably talk to Stratford Regional Planning Commission to see about putting some pedestrian counters up to get some information for where people are walking, that sidewalk or alternative trail network opportunities could benefit.
Yep.
I would say we could partner with SRPC to get a sense for some baseline data and maybe some recommendations for opportunities that we could take advantage of. Whether as part of our paving plan, I mean, this current plan that we're working on for sidewalks was also somewhat hand in hand with our pavement management plan and trying to identify when we're gonna be getting into resurface the roadway. We wanna address the sidewalk if it needs to be done at the same time. But now is a good opportunity to start looking beyond that. And we may still
So
find
is there
some gaps, but
one additional funding cycle, so to speak, that we have for the current plan?
possibly one or two.
One or two. Okay.
Current construction costs have required that we can't necessarily do what we want every year.
Yeah.
But if we keep contributing every year, then every other year we can get stuff accomplished.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean we can't work on that next generation. So,
No, in
yeah.
fact, it probably
Probably a
gives
good
us
time
the
to-
time
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
To get it done, and it goes hand in hand with the
Yes, to get some good data to support it.
Yeah.
road topology piece as well.
Mhm.
Um, and I do like the thinking around, off the road, pedestrian, bicycle, connectivity. It's sometimes a lot cheaper to do that than, even a sidewalk, as long as there's a right of way or some other arrangement that exists.
But that made me think of the Durrell Woods open space, because we've got all these neighborhoods that feed into the back of the Leo Lanaroche Memorial Field and the schools, both schools.
Yep.
And I know there are trails back there, but I don't really know where they go, and I don't know, maybe you guys do, but I know some kids may use them. I don't know what it is, but it is open space. I don't know if we have a right to have a trail through there, or if it's trespassing or what.
Yeah, the town does not own that property, or there's actually a private property that's between
Okay.
the fields and the Durrell Woods open space. Did you have something to say on
No.
Didn't know that part.
Not posted.
that? Yeah, it's,
Right.
Yeah.
I will say there are trails back there. They're kind of just marked by sticks, but they are noticeable trails.
Yeah.
So you can tell if you memorize the trails, you can tell where you're going. But if you don't know the fact, you're not going to know where you end up.
Yeah.
Which could be part of the fun.
Yes.
No, I know we have a lot of trails throughout New Hampshire that cross private property, seeing signs that this is private property, please, respect it. You may pass, but please respect the fact it's private property. Most people are good, as long as everyone's good on the other side too.
So I think we should note this, this down for our, 2026 goal session setting session. Because having a kind of a comprehensive look at expanding our transportation network, going rather than keeping it segmented into. I mean, I know that you guys already tried to bring paving of roadways and sidewalk expansion together where that made sense, so that's commendable. But having kind of a comprehensive look at it and seeing how we can do this in an effective way, and where a through cut would really benefit a lot of people to get from their neighborhood downtown, let's say, that would be fantastic. And I think having it done for the whole town, and looking at where we want to do that, and what we can create with that, what kind of efficiencies we can create, and maybe take pressure off of downtown parking. That would be, I think, a good step for us a good project for us to undertake.
It's just in the newspapers the last couple of days, the Portsmouth Rail Trail use is surging.
Yeah.
We know that people like to use, and that's a beautiful one too. That's awesome.
You did read the Seacoast Greenway?
Yeah. And it was in all the area newspapers about the use is just
absolutely.
flying.
And Hampton is right on the way. That's going to be eventually reached and going to go all the way down into Massachusetts.
Yeah, I've taken the one from Salisbury, from
Seabrook.
What was it?
It's
Was
in
from Seabrook
It's next to the water tower.
into Newburyport.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Absolutely, it is, and it's going to be gorgeous going from Seabrook north, all the way through the marshes into Hampton. And Hampton, the village, will benefit from having all of that traffic. Hence, I think Art's desire to create some connectivity to Durham as well. And I think it's going to become more of an opportunity than and everywhere that you're looking, whether it's Concord, and they just approved a section of trail along the Merrimack in Pennacook. Every community that has them sees a benefit because people are passing through, and it's a safe way to travel rather than traveling on the road for any kind of rider.
Yeah, you mentioned the importance of getting to Durham for a connection to the buses, but that's also a connection to the trains, which
Yes.
I was using, but
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm working on
you can,
that. I will
Yeah, it's fantastic because, well, they get 50% off, but now, certain age you get 50% off, but suddenly it's going up or down to Boston or up to Portland is a lot more, it's twice as much fun.
Yes, yeah, I agree, I agree, but it would be nice to have. Okay, enough of that. I think we've reached the end of this rope, otherwise we'll just keep going into Never Neverland. So thank you very much. If anything else is there that you want to mention, please do
Yes,
it now, otherwise I would consider us adjourned.
Someone move it. Who's gonna move it?
We don't have to vote on it. We can just.
We can be adjourned.
Adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Adjourned, not.
Yeah.